Hi everybody, welcome to Beyond the Lines. My name is Sarah, I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten, and today I'm gonna finish the Geillis Duncan page by painting the background, all of it. So this page is finally done, and I'm gonna talk to you about how I choose my colors, why I decided to use certain supplies, and well, all the things about light and shadow again, because why not? So I hope you enjoy, and I'm gonna see you next week. There we go! On to a new medium. I decided I won't color the candelabra for now. I will, or not with colored pencils anyway. That was the idea or the thing I had to decide from last video. So today I brought in a new medium, and you can already see it here. It's the Caran d'Ache Neocolors 2. And with the background, I want to have kind of like a soft underpainting, especially in a couple of areas. Not necessarily the candelabra, but all of the background. The candelabra will get a soft underpainting, but I might have a different kind of medium on top than for the rest of the background. And I have to, hold on, I should have done that before starting the video, but I just realized I got a little bit of ink here in my cap. Don't know where that came from. But anyways, I brought in the Caran d'Ache, and the first thing I want to do is paint the cone of light that is coming in. In the last couple of videos, pretty much any video for this particular page, I had said that I would have some yellow light coming in. And I did color all of the items here with a little bit of a yellow tint here on the legs and the lower part of the table, for example, and also here on the upper part of the table there's just a glow. And now I want to color in where the glow comes from, and for that I'm using a very light and pale yellow and more of a golden yellow, and I'm just gonna start coloring in, taking quite the big brush. So the light is a little lighter, pun not intended, here where the window is. So anything that is quote-unquote outside gets that light yellow color, because if you noticed when you look outside and sun is shining and you're maybe a little bit in a darker room, it is quite bright, so almost white-ish, but still, since this is autumn season, it has a yellowish tint because the sun is just in a different position on the sky, so the light seems to be a little warmer, and that's all physics. So I want to start with my light pale yellow here for the outside. So coming in, light bounces off, and that is the point where I bring in a mixture of both the pale yellow and the golden yellow, and I just gotta mix them together. And like I said, light bounces off. So for example, it definitely bounces off here on the wooden frame. And then it also bounces off anywhere here on the lower part of the frame. And it hits towards the table directly, and you can't see the shadow behind it. So anything below is hit by that beam of sunlight. And that is why I'm giving it that wonderful underpainting here. I'm trying not to go too golden, quote unquote. That's why I mix in a little bit of that pale yellow. But I want to have a difference visible because the light bounces off of a lot of brown stuff and green stuff and such. Need a little more of the pale yellow. So then going towards the right, I had said the cone of light is something like this. So anything here in the frame also has a yellow tint. And since we're watching or since the viewer stands towards, looking towards the light source, you can hardly see any of the wooden color underneath. Now I will use my hand to guide where the light is hitting. And now I'm going, at this point I'm going only with the pale yellow, because the further the yellow light goes into the room, the less yellow it gets, and it's just lighter. And eventually you can see the true color of objects. So I'm getting very light here. Just a smidge of the golden yellow for this particular section. But again, I'm getting light again, because I will layer on top some of the quote-unquote true colors of the objects. So this is the light cone on the upper part here. Then we can go, or I can go. Why is my drawer opening? Because my thighs are bumping against it. So I'm going towards the other angle, and I can use the hairline of Geillis to figure out where I wanted my light to hit, because I colored in light and shadow already. So this is definitely a light section. And then it goes something like this. All right. Since she blocks the light, there's no light bouncing off of the table here in that straight line. But I do have a little bit of a bounce off underneath the table, like here on the floor. So more of that pale yellow mixed with the golden yellow. And I'd say it bounces up here. And this is going to be a section where I will also layer a little bit of brown. It's not a pure yellow section. Something like that. You can already see I do have a couple of white spots left, and I will fill them in with the floor color. I haven't decided yet what kind of brown I want to use, but I need a little more of the golden yellow here. There we go. So this is the underpainting for the light cone. Now, walls. I want to start with the upper part. I need a gray. And my vlogging camera to start, because this time I'm gonna remember teasers. So for the gray, since I want to layer stuff, I want to go a little lighter, and I'm gonna go with gray number 5. This is a cool gray. So I'm going to cool gray. Did I get the right one? Nope. That should be this one. Yep, that's the right one. So I want to layer another medium on top later on, partially at least. So I don't want to go too dark with my color choices here for the neo colors. That's why I started with a fairly light gray. I can always layer darker shades on top, but just to block in my color, I'm gonna go a little more light there. For this section here, for example, I'm gonna go way darker, but why not have a little bit of a lighter underpainting? This paper can take quite a bit of pigment and water, so I'm not worried about that. Can pretty much layer another 2 or 3 layers on top. I just have to dry the paper in between. Make sure that my paper doesn't peel. And this is what I like about the reverse coloring when it comes to my usual process. I do have so much pigment on the paper when it comes to my focal point. The paper is so saturated it can't pretty much take anymore. So the good thing is that I can get quite close with the neo colors and the pigment won't stick. So I'm not having a hard time coloring around those strands of hair, for example. It's fairly easy because the oil of the polychromos almost repels the water color here, and I had to concentrate. There we go. So that's the thing that I really like, and that is why I sometimes do the reverse coloring process. If you've watched me for a while, you know that I like to start with the background first and then go to the foreground and color or paint my focal point last, just to get my color values right, or it's just easier for me. But with mixed media and the supplies that I chose for this particular page here, it was simply just easier to go the other way around and not have the background colored in first. So there is wall number 1. This is all wood. So it's just the bricks down here. And as you can see now, I'm making progress fairly quickly. So if you remember, I think I said it in the last video that the background will be colored way faster than the focal point. So now you know why I said that. Especially, excuse me, especially since they are quite, I don't want to say open spaces, but they're fairly big, and I don't have to be super fiddly. Sure, here around the candelabra, gotta be a little more careful to not color them or it's gray. Though, I'm thinking, is that wood or is that going to be metal? If it's metal, it's going to be grayish, but I haven't decided yet. What to do. I think I will color in all the wooden parts first before I decide on what color I want to use on the candelabra. So there we go. The rest is wood. So now I gotta choose. I want to separate the roof from the floor. And also have it slightly different from the, what's going on with my light? It makes funny noises. One of my filming lights is probably gonna die soon. Great. So I gotta decide what I want as a color. Let me see. I'm definitely sorry. I hope the flickering is not too visible on the video. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So now, since I'm not distracted anymore, I definitely want to go for the raw umber. And I think I want that for the roof. So let's choose the raw umber. Ooh. There we go. What do I want to have for the floor? Kind of a cooler shade too. But I don't want to go for sepia yet, since this is a tiny little bit too dark for me. So I think I'm going with a Van Dyke brown maybe, and combine it with the raw umber to just have a little bit of a difference, but not too much, because back in the day they pretty much built the houses of this out of the same wood, and flooring and the roof, well, they didn't choose very different kinds of materials. So I guess by mixing those colors, I can make somewhat of a contrast, like a difference between the sections, but it still feels very similar. So I guess it might be that I just go for the raw umber all the way. Let's see how it looks when I do have my roof colored. Okay, now for the big boy back here. And I'm coloring with the grain on these particular bits here, because that will help me later on to make it look quite realistic once I get to the next couple of layers where I color in the details and shading and such. I'm not going to use colored pencils or anything on this particular part, because since this is the background, there's way less focus on it. So you can't really make out a lot of details that you can make out on the focal point. Need a little more. Last little bit of the roof. Oh no, I forgot one part. There's one wooden beam back there that also belongs to the roof. And there's also a little bit more of the gray back here. I totally overlooked that, so I'm gonna take a smaller brush and get in there with my light gray. Like so. Oh, there's another dark brown bit down here. And now I can decide. Let me see. I think I'm not gonna use the Van Dyke. I'm just gonna use the raw umber. Because the Van Dyke is a little closer to the table color, and I want to set those apart. So I'm just going for the raw umber for the floor. I'm gonna start back here. And with the floorboards, I want to color left to right, not have my pencil strokes be top to bottom, though in some places it's a little more difficult. But because they're just tiny little bits, but all in all I want to go with the grain of the wood. Now that I'm getting to the part of the floor where the light hits, I'm just gonna color the parts first that are white, so where I didn't have any yellow on top, which is like so. And now I'm going in with very, very, very diluted raw umber. I'm just going on top. Not picking up any more of the pigment, I'm just pulling it towards the top. And now that I got that done, I can go on the lower part of my page here again and bring in some more of the raw umber, cleaning up my brush, and then where's my yellow? There it is. And then I'm going back to the pale yellow. And bring in a little more of that with a little bit of the golden orangey yellow. What's it called actually? Oh, it's golden yellow. All right. just a smidge more of the raw umber. Okie. Now I can move on to the candelabra. What do I want to do? Do I want this to be wood or metal? I think I want it to be metal, because I do have a lot of brown here. I think I need a little more of a gray. And I'm taking dark gray, because why not? Yep, that's the correct one. But I also gotta switch to a smaller brush. Oop. Start down here. And then moving my way up. What most likely will happen is that I will put polychromos pencils on top of the Neo colors on the candelabra, but not have them as detailed and as well, yeah, detailed is the correct word. Have it a little more blurry looking, because this is the part that is not the focal point. But it's not really the background either. It's kind of like a mid-ground. So a combo of the underpainting for the background and the polychromos of the foreground, I think it's a nice transition. Okay. On to the candles. I need the beige. Just a little bit. By the way, if you hear weird noises in the background, that is the wind. We've got a winter storm here. Was actually really bad Sunday evening. Now it's Tuesday, so it's just the last little bit of it, but still it's quite stormy outside, so if you hear weird bumping noises, that is why. Things are still bumping into each other here. So, first I gotta stretch. Yep. Like so, and now I'm gonna dry this off. Okay, and now I will bring in a few of the darker shades of the gray and the brown, but not too much, because I had said earlier I'm gonna have other media on top. But I'm gonna start with the dark gray that I had used for the candelabra, and I'm just putting a little bit of a shadow or somewhat of a detail down on a couple of bricks or parts of the wall. Still going a little light with my color, because I want to have enough space to put colors on top later on. I'm not working on details now, so all these line works here in the wall, on the wall. I'm gonna disregard them. I'm just putting in major light and dark shadow bits. All the details I will take care of later. So there's, oh, I forgot to have the light gray down here. I'm gonna add that in a hot second. But since I do have the dark gray on my brush, just gonna plug in those major lights and darks. So the further we go towards the left here, the darker something is, and the further on top, because it's the furthest away from the cone of light. So I'm just gonna add a little layer of the dark gray and blend it out with the lighter gray, or just with a clean brush. I gotta work fast because some of the colors do stain the paper, or you can move the ink later on, so it can look quite a bit blotchy. But this is where a bigger brush helps. For example, like this. I'm just gonna feather this out towards the right. Also adding a little bit of the light gray again, just to have pretty much the same amount of layers for the different kinds of colors. So a little more down here. And I will probably also bring in a little bit of indigo. If you remember from the last couple of videos, indigo is my favorite shading color. Funny enough, not with the neo colors per se, because it's quite purplish and I'm not too much of a fan for that or about that. But indigo in connection with night blue actually makes for a nice dark shading color. If I layer the gray on top, this will be very dark. Where's the Payne's gray? Where didn't I use it yet? Because Payne's gray is, oh no, I didn't use it for the candelabra yet, so I can still do so. But I'm gonna go with a charcoal gray to layer on top for my darkest darks here. Charcoal gray, there we are. And though I do have so many colors with the neo colors, I tend to still layer my colors as I would with other media. So I do have quite a couple of dark grays and black and whatever in this tin. But I still tend to put a little bit of purple or blue or brown or whatever underneath. I guess that's just, I think, habit for one. Because human beings usually are creatures of habit. But also, I do like to have a little bit of a tint, in this case, bluish, purplish. With my grays and blacks, it makes it not as flat. And I use that a lot with watercolors and colored pencils. I really do that a lot, even with acrylics, but mostly with colored pencils and watercolors, because this is what I currently use most in my studio. And I sometimes, well, have to smile at myself for doing the same process, though I do have so many colors, different shades of something. Excuse me. In my tints of colors here, in this case the neo colors. Now I will add a little bit of that darker gray to blend out my charcoal. And for the last little bit, I'm also going in with my light gray. And I gotta clean my tin in a minute, because I don't think I need the yellow anymore, but I need space for my shading colors here. A little more down here on her waist with a little bit of the darker gray. There we go. On to the next bit. Up here. I'm using the same colors as on the other side, but they're a little lighter here because there might be a second window or something to the right of the coloring page, so I'm just going a little lighter. And that reminds me, I also wanted to bring in a little bit of a light gray down here. So I'm keep it on my tin. I'm adding quite a bit of water and not too much pigment, but so that's still too much. More water, less pigment. There we go. Just bringing in a bit of that grayish tint here. Just very little. I'm not gonna work on shading that part. It's just a little bit of the original color that comes through, that you can see through the beams of the sunlight. Next up are these bricks here, so I'm going in again with my dark gray. I'm just gonna shade them the same way as the brick wall on top. So no fuss, nothing for the details. Just giving this the overall tone. And it's again a mixture of the dark gray, the charcoal gray, indigo, and night blue. Woo. Need a little more of the charcoal. There we go. And now I gotta clean my tin. Okay, tin is cleaned. Where was I? There. So need more of the night blue and the indigo and the charcoal gray. And the dark gray, is it that one? No, that's the umber. This is the dark gray. Should be. Yeah, it is. All right. I'm gonna disregard the candelabra in this shading process now because I'm gonna put colored pencils on top, so I don't need to take care of that. So this is where the very darks are. There's no light source at all. And I don't imagine to be a light source somewhere here of picture. I actually wanted to say of frame, but that kind of makes me think of video frame or camera frame, not necessarily of my picture here. So it's just a weird thing in my brain, I guess, because technically off frame would be correct too, because we are put into a scenery here. I think I'm gonna need more of the charcoal gray. That was a little too less pigment on my palette, so one more scribble of the charcoal. Though this is my darkest area here of the wall, I'm not gonna bring in black yet. Again, I'm planning to have another medium on top, and I will very likely only use black then, or I want to keep that option open for me to darken things up with black there. Coloring in the rhythm of speaking, or the other way around. So a little bit of my charcoal gray. Maybe even a little more charcoal, because this is quite purplish still. There we go. It's more like it, but I want a little more of the charcoal also here, this part. Okay. That is it for the gray, I think. Let me check again. I could put a little more gray down here. Combination of the dark gray and the charcoal gray. There we go. On to the browns. Gotta check. Oh, I still have enough water in my brush. That's awesome. I need my umber. And I'm gonna use the charcoal gray as well. And a little bit of sepia. For my wooden pieces, but I do have a little bit of the light gray here, so I'm going in with a lot of water and just a tiny bit of the raw umber to also bring in a bit of a brownish tint here on this bit. Very little only. And then on to shading. Again, I'm just blocking in the major colors here. I'm starting with a mixture of sepia and raw umber. And then just another layer of only the raw umber to bring both of those bits together. And only raw umber for a second layer here on the transition part from the brown to the yellow. And then since this is the very dark part here, I'm also bringing in a little bit of my charcoal gray just to have a very dark tint of that dark brown. So this is the darkest part back here. So this is going to be mostly charcoal and sepia and just a tiny bit of the raw umber. we go. Now I can move on to this tiny little bit of wood back here. And then on to the big beams on top. So I need more of the charcoal and sepia and the raw umber. Now I'm going bit by bit, like beam by beam, I should say. And again, I'm trying to stay with the direction of the grain when it comes to painting the beams. And I'm mainly using sepia and charcoal for this one, just a little bit of the raw umber. And since this is the super dark wall here, I'm going on top with just a layer of charcoal gray here at the lower part of the roof. And then I'm moving upwards to the next bit of wood. And bit by bit, this roof gets darker and darker. There's a few bits like here where I'm gonna go a little lighter and then darker towards the top again. And by lighter, I mean just the ratio of sepia and charcoal and raw umber. So I'm going a little stronger towards the raw umber. The more I get to that midsection here, so the next one, for example, is gonna have a little more of the raw umber. And just a tiny little bit of the charcoal and sepia. Next one. The not so great about paper that is okay for watercolor, but is maybe more intended towards colored pencil usage. It curls at the edges. I'm gonna get that flat again, I don't worry about that, but while coloring it's a little iffy to have to push down on your page. Ooh. Need just a smidge more of the charcoal, because here on top there's gonna be the darker sections again. There we go, onto the next beam. And then I'm almost done with this medium. Now, gotta check. Oh, I can even, I guess, start the next bit in this video. So maybe, if all goes well, I can actually finish this page today. I kind of thought I would need not one more video, but two, but I guess if I go more towards the 2-hour mark here of the videos, or maybe a little over, I can finish this page today. And next week we can move on to the next page in this book. Which would be nice, huh? At least I think so. I mean, I really liked this picture. And I still liked and I still like it a lot. It's one of my favorites in this book. But I'm also ready to move on. And the next one won't have color pencil for the focal point, or like for the major part of this page. But that's what I'm gonna tell you in that video then. All right, there we go. Last check. Did I forget anything? No. So I'm gonna dry this off, and then there's gonna be a jump cut for you, because I'm gonna move on to other media. And while drying off my page, I realized I didn't shade the floor. So I'm not gonna move on yet, but I'm just gonna bring in a little bit of charcoal again, sepia and raw umber. To color the floor. I really forgot. So I'm mixing charcoal with sepia for these very dark bits here. And now on to mainly raw umber for these bits here. All right, now I really can dry this off and move on to the next medium. So I'm getting back to my candelabra here, and that is where I bring in words. Polychromos, that was the word. So I need a lighter brown for my candelabra. I'm going for you. Pencil, and that is brown ochre. So I'm not gonna put as much detail into this as I did with the focal point, but we just gotta have a little bit of shading and such. Really just very little. So I'm just gonna orient myself on the line work, on all the little bits that are colored in here, or drawn in, I should say. And I'm gonna just emphasize them with a little bit of pencil. Really just very, very little. And then I'm gonna bring in a black pencil. for these tiny little bits. I just forgot their name. And I'm using Payne's Gray for the candle holder itself. And I'm not being precise with the way I shade this at all. So, I mean, I'm precise with where I put my color, but I'm not precise with my pencil lines and trying to make this as smooth as my focal point. Because again, I want this to be in the background, and since I'm going to use pastels on top, on the background, after I finish this pencil work here, I want to have this kind of grainy, but still kind of smooth look for the midground. So that is why I'm using my pencils on top of the neo colors rather roughly, maybe? That's the word, I guess. And I will, of course, also bring in my indigo. Because even when you color rather quickly or a section rather quote-unquote roughly, still I need to have my values be correct. So I need a little bit of a darker shade there on some of the bits. There we go, and now I'm gonna have a jump cut and bring in pastels. Did you see that coming? Was that a surprise for you maybe? Because I think I didn't tell you guys before. So let me know in the comments below if this is a surprise for you. Alrighty, so I brought my Koh-i-Noor pencils and I'm gonna choose a couple of shades here to work to work with on top of my background painting. But I gotta clean up my pencil sharpener because I need to sharpen quite a few of the pencils. All right. I did choose, does it say the color? No. So it's like a sunny yellow and one that is more like, I would say almost a mustard yellow to work with first, because now that I'm working on my pastels, with the pastels here on the background, I gotta be very careful not to smudge everything. I do want to smudge a couple of things, that's why I got a couple of Q-tips here. You could also use blending stubs, but mine aren't as great anymore, so I got rid of them. And I like to work with Q-tips anyways. That's what I did back in the day when I started with pastels, because that was, besides colored pencils, the first medium I bought. That was like artist grade kind of a supply. So I'm just putting down a bit of my pastel chalk here and using pastel pencils instead of blocks and Q-tips instead of your fingers. That works actually really well if you're one of those people who doesn't really like the chalky feel on your hands. So I can only recommend using them if you, well, like the soft look and are just hindered by the nature of the pastels. All right, so this is what I want to put down first. So I'm just gonna blend it. And I chose pastels on top because I want to have those light beams also going onto the table. That's why I went with this particular supply. But first, just want to have the bounce of the light on my window frame. And also here on the wooden part and the stones. For the light beams, I'm gonna go with a white, so it's going to be a combination of white and the little more muted kind of a yellow. So now here we go. This is the scary part, really. Because the sunbeams can't necessarily be redone. So I'm going very lightly with my yellow first, like on top of my white. And I'm starting with the white, and I'm taking a clean part of the Q-tip. And then I can go back to the yellow side. And I can put a little bit of a lighter yellow on top. So gonna bring down, bring some of the yellow down here. I'm bringing in a little bit of a cream up here. It's almost like a flesh tone. I'm using the white side of the Q-tip to blend this out. It's very subtle, but it kind of works. And in between those yellow beams, I'm gonna put white. Woo! If I can grab my pencil. And a little bit of white here on my basket. And then I can move on to my darker shades. Let's see. Dark gray, that's brown. Let's see which one's cooler. Definitely this one. Okay, so I've got a dark, dark blue could also work nicely. So I just picked a dark brown, a cool one, a gray, a black, and a blue. I think I won't really use the blue, but I'm gonna keep it here nonetheless. And I'm gonna start with my dark brown here. I'm not gonna smudge a lot, at least not for the wood. Maybe I'm gonna smudge a little bit of the pigment for the gray. This is something that I will decide on the fly. Now's the time that I bring in a bit, yes, I'm gonna smudge the gray, that I bring in a bit of detail. And for that, I'm gonna use a little bit of black. Like so. Gonna emphasize that gray line. Making it all pretty neat, and then back to my brown. Which I'm not gonna smudge. So on these very dark bits here, I don't need a lot of my pastel pencil, just a bit. And the lead is breaking. This is something I don't like. I do have charcoal too, so maybe I'm gonna use that instead of the pastel. Gonna give it one more go with sharpening my pencil. Oh, there we go. Maybe you just gotta threaten your pencils not to use them anymore for them to work. But okay, I don't like the black pencil a lot. I think I will go and move on to charcoal in a minute. Because I can hardly put down any pigment here, which is not something that I like. So hold on a sec, I'm gonna bring in the charcoal. These were actually some of the first artist grade items I ever bought with a set of pastel blocks. So let's see if we're doing a little better with the charcoal. Yeah, I'd say so. Of course, I gotta be careful now on where I touch my paper, because I got charcoal all over my hands. There it is. So some of those cracks that I'm drawing in here, I'm not gonna smudge out. And some of them I do. And that makes for a nice little rough wall. And this is pretty much all I'm gonna do here. It's the last tiny bit. So first I'm going in and blend out whatever I put down with my pastels here or with my charcoals. And after that I'm just going in and leave whatever I'm putting down. Now, at least with the stony bits. It's a little different with the wood. I mean, here on those big pieces, I'm also gonna bring in charcoal. I think my pencils do have a little bit of trouble with more of the thicker layers of neocolors underneath. Just a few squiggles are really enough for me. I don't need to have every line that is drawn in from the wood grain. Don't need to have those gone over with the pastels. But now I'm gonna bring in my charcoal. And just a little more of the lines that I'm not going to blend out. Or just slightly gonna blend out. There we go. On to the next bit. Oh, that would be here, behind the candelabra. Something that I'm not gonna blend. But here on the left-hand side of the candelabra, I'm definitely gonna do some blending work first. And then I go over some of those lines again and not blend out my charcoal. We'll move on to the floor, and that will be the final little bit what I'm gonna do. So first, the bits that I'm gonna blend. I don't actually need quite a bit of the gray or anything. I just needed a little black. this is the stuff that I'm gonna blend, and then I'm gonna go in and emphasize a little bit of the wood grain, make it a little more visible. Now on to the final little bit. I'm very happy that I'm finishing this page today. I mean, I really liked coloring this. But I'm also ready to move on to the next page, honestly. I get everything? Oh, there's one little bit missing back here. This has to be a little darker because this is the darkest edge. But I think, now I hope I'm not putting my fingers where they don't belong. I might add a little bit of the charcoal here. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to spray this page with my fixative spray to keep the pastels and the charcoal in place. And then I am done. What you think? Did you expect it to be like this, or maybe not? Or tell me what you think. And I want to know if you were surprised by the pastels, because I hardly ever use them in coloring books. I mean, I did in some of the Hannah Carlson books, but not in this book here, I think, if I remember correctly. Okay. This is now going to dry, and next week I can move on to a new page. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. And if you're new to the channel and like what you see, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button so that I know that you liked what I produced here. And happy coloring, take good care, have fun. I'm gonna see you. Bye.